Today, I just received this, the SculptFun iCube desktop engraver. So why not check this out in my brand new office? Let's go. Okay, so in this case, I've got my knife. I'm going to open this up in front of you. We're going to see what's going to happen. Let's open this up and get everything out here. We're going to do this with both hands. We'll see how it goes. So in here, you can already see we have a desktop laser. I'm going to just turn this over, gently take it out of the box. Put that to the side. Let's see what we have here. Not sure which side is up and which one side is down. Well, let's give it a shot. It's well packed, and it's quite a small footprint. I'm actually really impressed with the size of this machine. Let me open this up first. Got some pieces here. All right. So you can see here, this is the SculptFun. It is quite small. It's kind of a cube. It doesn't have a large footprint at all. You can see all the sides. It has an extraction fan at the back here. I've got a feeling there's some more stuff packed in this. So let's go a little bit deeper. I'm going to sit this down. Sorry that this is out of shot, but I just need to use both hands to open this up. So there's actually foam inside this, and it has a bit of weight. So I've got a feeling it might actually have, oh, there's more tape. Be sure to take that tape off as well. If there's one thing that I really enjoy when I get these machines to review, it's actually how they are able to pack such a large amount of different accessories and parts for the laser in such a small area. And this is no different. So you have this acrylic screen. You can see on the inside. This is just a piece of, I think it might be it's not plexiglass, it could be Lexan, or it could be polycarbonate. Actually, I gotta be honest with you. If you look in here, it says it's cast acrylic sheet. And that's a little disappointing, and I'll tell you why. While it does filter things out, it won't filter out the whole range of radiation that's being emitted by the laser. Acrylic sheet, depending on the power of it, it works, but it's not a full guarantee. I would have liked to have seen this piece to have been a piece of polycarbonate, which a lot of people use as shielding from UV radiation. It's a little bit more expensive. I understand that it does cost a bit, but as I said, to find out that it says here, cast acrylic sheet, is a little disappointing. But let's go further. All right, so we have the machine itself. So I'll get rid of that piece right here. It is nice and small, as I said. I'm assuming this is the cutting area. There's a piece there. We'll look at it in a moment. It is nice and compact, as you can see. There's a power input here. Looks like a USB, power switch. No laser. There's another piece of foam. We'll get to that in a second. Let's just put that aside. Let's see what else comes with the laser. We have two layers of foam that was in the work area. On the first area, we have some cables. That's a USB, and it looks like a USB to a USB-C cable. We also have a power cable. Since I'm in Australia, it's an Australian plug. We have some glasses, some safety glasses. This is something I'm going to talk about a little bit, but these are green glasses compared to the orange acrylic sheet. It's interesting because I was looking around the SculptFun website, and it did mention that the shields that are provided with the lasers do not necessarily protect from everything. And I'm going to show you that website right here. It's kind of unfortunate because I keep seeing things like this, these laser glasses. They don't have any real markings for what they're rated. I congratulate the companies for actually putting safety equipment in, but then it's really disappointing when you find on their website that they say we are not responsible for the equipment that we actually pack with these lasers. which means that there is a slight risk. I don't use glasses like this. I actually use a different type of glasses that are rated and are checked, but I am glad that there's something in here because there's a lot of people who don't use safety equipment at all. The last thing that's here is the laser unit itself. This is a 5-watt laser unit. There you go. So this is the SculptFun laser unit right here. You can see that's obviously the laser end. There's a fan at the back, and this unit actually has a built-in focus point, which I guess would be down here. That would be the focal point of where the laser comes in contact with whatever material you're using. These modular laser units are really easy to change out. I've seen a lot of companies work with these things. This is a 5-watt unit. There's a 10-watt unit and a 3-watt unit, depending on what you're going to do or what you're going to use. So again, if these units happen to not be enough power, they burn out, they get damaged, you can quickly, easily mount them using this French cleat type system, and you're able to change them out very, very quickly. On the end here, where my finger is, right there, you can see that's obviously where the power comes in to control the laser. I've seen a lot of companies going this way. It'd be interesting to see what the optics are inside this unit, but I won't do that in this video. I might do that in a future video. It looks very simple and very easy to be able to put the laser unit together. So let's put that down. That's the end of the first piece of packaging. The second one is right here. Comes with a few things. We'll start with the laser repair kit from SculptFun. This is kind of neat. I haven't seen anything like this before. Usually you just get a Ziploc bag full of little bits and pieces. In here is a number of things. First of all, and again, very impressive, but this is the first time I've seen this. These are tweezers. So if you need to get something out, you've got a pair of tweezers. These are the standard ESD10. These are just standard electronic tweezers. Not too sure why they're giving us, but it is not always nice to see. They've got a actual crescent wrench in here, or just a wrench, an 8 and a 10. And again, it's kind of nice to see that as opposed to these types of wrenches, which they've got another one of these in here. This is something that you would use multiple places. Obviously, it's a bit of a different cost, but I like that it's in here. You've got an Allen key, a replacement lens, which is something that's really interesting because I would like to find out how much those lenses cost to replace and how often, but they do give you a replacement lens and a microfiber towel. So obviously you're expected to clean the lens, which you should do with any laser that you have, regardless if it's a diode laser, CO2 laser. I have yet to actually review a fiber laser. You also have here a filter. These filters are built into the machine. One of the things they talk about this machine is the fact that it has a filter, and there's also another, I believe this is a carbon filter. So you've got a pre-filter and a carbon filter. Again, I would like to know whether or not I can replace these, what the costs are. There isn't any information within the instructions, which I also have right here. This also came, that was sitting on the top of the laser when I opened it up. It's snazzy. I like these sort of booklets. I'm much better than having to have something that I need to go and actually look at online. It's great to have it. You know, a little bit of feedback for SculptFun and just laser companies in general. These instructions don't really come from the perspective of someone who is working with a laser for the very first time. There is definitely information in this that talks about the laser and the setup, definitely talks about how to set it up. But when it comes to things like Lightburn and software, there is almost non-existent. You only have this page that actually says a little bit about where to download Lightburn, but nothing about how to set it up. So if this was my first laser, I'd be lost. The other thing, and this is feedback that I would give to any laser company, and I'm seeing this more and more, there is a frequently asked questions page, but there is no information about laser safety. Now, some companies actually have a page, SculptFun doesn't have this, that explains that there is a danger to using a laser, that it's not a toy, and that you could be in risk in harming yourself or others by using it. I've seen that with other companies almost in the form of a disclaimer, meaning if you use our product, we're not responsible about the results that you're going to have. Love to see SculptFun and other companies actually taking time out in their instructional information, educating the users about the basics of lasers and especially the dangers of using a laser. This is something that I'm going to delve into in another video quite soon, but I think there's a responsibility if you're going to sell someone a product. Not only do you need to empower them to use the product, but also make sure that they are safe. It's a bit of a shame that if I just got this laser, had no experience with it whatsoever, and dived deep into getting it set up, and I started grabbing the material and throwing it in there, not understanding the dangers and risks involved, I could get myself into trouble very quickly. With that said, let's move on. We have the filters, and we also have a power supply. So we have a number of things along with the laser that we have to set up. The last thing that was here is this plastic sheet. I don't think it's plastic. I think it's a metallic film, kind of on a piece of aluminium or aluminum, as they say in America. Quite thin. I believe that this is the sheet that goes in the base of the machine so that we can set it up. So let's take everything that I've just shown you that was packed in with this Sculpt Fun iCube, and let's put it together and see how it works. Like all my equipment review videos, this is the very first time that I've seen this equipment. So I'm going to take you on a real-time journey of putting this machine together using the instructions that have been supplied, and I'm going to be using the manual for this. So as I showed you before, this is the main part. I'm going to be holding this up to the camera because, as I mentioned to you before, this is a brand new office and I haven't got everything set up yet. If I flick this up, you can see there is a piece of foam in here. I'm going to pull it out. I might have to use both hands, excuse me. No, here it comes. And again, this foam piece doesn't have anything else in it. And you can see inside that you have some of the electronics in the gantry. So obviously this is where the laser head would sit. And there is a tag that's right here. And I'm just going to open it up and see if I can show it to you. This is just a quality control tag. So basically someone checked this machine before they sent it to me. When it comes to the instructions, there's lots of languages here. They have a number of different translations, but it's only about 3 or 4 pages that the instructions are in English. So again, it'd be nice to have a little bit more information for the brand new user. Now, in here, it doesn't really show me anything when it comes to instructions. It does show me how to use the focus of the laser unit. And in here, then it jumps to the API for Sculpt Fun. It doesn't really have any instructions on how to actually put this together. So again, if this is the very first time that I would be working with a laser, you could get very, very lost very, very quickly. I would have liked to have seen some sort of instructions of how to be able to attach the laser and place the cabling in the right way. Now, luckily, I've had some experience with it. So let's do that first. Let me go grab my laser unit. This is where I don't assume anyone, when they've got their laser for the very first time, their level of electronics, understanding, even assembly may be different from everyone else's. So Sculpt Fun did mention that this machine was a production model, and if I had any comments or ideas, that I should let them know, and I am doing that. So in here, you can see the work area. And you have this gantry that slides forward and back. So you have a very small area, which is great, because if you're doing tiles or small pieces, it's a boom not to have a huge work area. And one of the things that they talk about this machine is not using that orange shield. So you can put in larger pieces of material in that area, engrave or cut them, and then slide that material out. Well, we may look at that in the future. Let's go and take a look. But as I said, I'm looking at this, and once I can work it out, I think I know what's going on. I'm just actually going to remove this little piece right here. First of all, you can see this little piece that's that the tag saying that it's been checked. I'm just going to get rid of that. And on this piece right here, let's see if I can move this up by the camera. It's not a lot of light, I apologize, but there you can see there's a flange. Let me see if I can, there you go. There is a little flange just in here, and what ends up happening is there's a little screw on this other side too. It's a little dark, there's no light in here, but what ends up happening is the laser head slides up on this kind of this negative part of the cleat, and you can lock it in. That's fantastic What I'm trying to look for, though, and cannot find, is where the cable hooks into this piece. So what I'm going to do is, and I rarely ever do this on my videos, is I'm going to use my phone's light to see if I can identify where that is before we slide it in, and then we should be okay. So I'm glad I used the light here because I'm going to show you guys what I found. This is a black cable in the machine that was hidden. We couldn't see it before just because there was no light. So this is where the laser module plugs in. And if you can see, this happens to be right here, the flange. So we're going to attach both of those right now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to slide the laser piece up. What I'm going to do first is I'm going to unscrew that screw so I have enough space. And I've got a feeling this is really the construction or the assembly of this laser, is I'm going to slide that laser piece on there. I'm just going to tighten that piece up. Going the wrong way. Both times I went the wrong way. There you go. And now the laser is actually attached to the machine. And using that screw, I can lower depending on what the height of my material is going to be. So that's a very easy, very quick install. The only other thing I need to do is take that cable and attach it to the top. So in here, I am going to take that cable and I'm going to plug it in here. So I am going to align the correct side. Which I believe is there. I'm going to do this with one hand, so while the whole unit is moving around. The way I know where the orientation is that there are two lugs that actually match these two pieces right in there. So you can't really do it any other way. I am going to move that up a little bit and hopefully be able to slide that in. So now that is connected to the laser unit. Just tighten it at the back. And we now have the laser unit installed in the iCube. Really the last thing I need to do is take that sheet that I was telling you about, and it seems to be a little magnetic, so it just ends up at the bottom of the plate. This is interesting because if I wanted to take the iCube and let's say I wanted to engrave this table, I could leave that off and I could just place it on my material and let the laser engrave directly on it, which is great if you're going to do something with the laser on, let's say, a crate, or you've got some shipping markings or something like that. Something that was a lot larger, you weren't going to be able to slide the material into the machine. You do have this open part, and you can see there, you actually have the work area of the laser. So this is actually, I like that feature a lot because it makes this machine a lot more versatile. So we just finished running our first test with the SculptFun iCube. So we like to test everything here with Lightburn first out of the box. It seems to become the laser standard, especially at this level of machine. So we did exactly that. We couldn't find it with the auto setup, but setting it up as a Gerbil device was quite easy, and we got it working the very first time. Now, quick tip. When I was setting this up, I did notice that the input on the iCube is a USB-C, so I quickly grabbed a USB-C cable directly into my MacBook Pro. To my surprise, the option within Lightburn to connect using serial and USB did not come up at all. In fact, it was looking for a Bluetooth connection, which I wasn't setting it up for. After scratching my head and rebooting my machine a few times, I realized the problem was the fact that I was not using a USB-C to USB-A cable. So I quickly grabbed the one that was supplied in the box, and it came up the very first time. So if you want to use a MacBook and connect it directly, seems like that may be a bit of an issue. I'm not sure if that's a SculptFun machine issue or a Lightburn one, but I just wanted to remove one of the dongles in the chain of cables, and yeah, didn't want to work. So if you get caught with that, you know that it's not your machine or your cables. It just seems to be a protocol when you're using a MacBook Pro with USB-C to USB-C cable. Now, there's a lot of things that I really like about this machine, and I was super excited when I got it because I love the idea of having a very small laser cutter in my office permanently for very quick jobs. And you know what? Having a 5-watt laser is not a problem at all, since I started out with the Blazer 2, which was 5-watt as well. A couple of things that I really like about this machine was the footprint. It is small, it sits on a desk, it doesn't eat up the whole desk like some larger lasers. And in fact, I was actually planning to put it in one of the cubes here and see whether or not I could just take it out of the cube, put it on my desk and use it. So it's got a great little footprint. I really like the size of it. It's also a very fast machine. I was able to crank some very cool speeds out of the machine using a 5-watt at 100%. The other thing that I really liked about it, and I'm not too sure if SculptFun's laser units are all this sharp, but the laser dot, so the resolution of the laser itself, from the actual digital image that I did for a test, and then the pencil drawing that I had done a few years ago, both of those things came out super crisp from the laser itself. I'm assuming that this has to do with the different types of lenses that a lot of manufacturers are now using. And I must say that out of the box, the laser quality on this machine blew me away. Now, there are two areas that I wouldn't say concerned about, but I do want to bring to people's attention. The first one, and that is that mat that I was talking about when we were unpacking it. This is a plate that goes into the machine, and I assumed that all this area would be the cutting area of the laser, and in fact it's not the case. Given the fact that everything is embodied in that laser case, there has to be a little bit of travel and play for the laser head itself. So it actually works out that you end up only getting kind of a little bit of this area on the plate, which was a little bit disappointing because at this size I could actually do a 200 by 200 tile, which was my goal at doing this review, was to actually get one of those made with the iCube. Doesn't work that way. I could do a 100 by 100, but as I was moving forward, I decided probably not to do that test in my office, and I'll explain to you why that is in a little bit. So just be aware that while it does look like it's got a much larger area, it's only 130 mil by 130 mil, and there are no markings on this plate. It's actually one of the things that I was thinking about doing, is actually getting the laser to mark out an area. And I might do that in the future as I develop and work further with this machine. Now, the other issue that I had that came up, and this one kind of slowed down my process of actually testing out the machine and finishing this review, happened to be this cover. And now we spoke about it a little bit earlier on. It is just Perspex, it's acrylic. It's not anything that was really designed to filter out laser light. But what ended up happening, and I'll show you here, is that this piece doesn't fit perfectly onto the machine, and therefore there was a lot of laser light leak. And as we were testing the machine for the very first time, we noticed that there was laser light kind of bleeding from the edge of where that piece sits into the machine, and it was actually bouncing off the walls. So we had a bit of like it was a little bit of an impromptu laser light show. But given the fact that this is supposed to make sure that anyone in the room is protected from the laser light being emitted from the laser as it's working, that was a little bit of a concern. You can also see here that as we place this cover onto the machine, it doesn't really fit. And I ended up using just normal masking tape to try and lock that down and block where that light was leaking as the laser was working. And as we were testing it, I thought I'd start off with a piece of material that I knew was absolutely safe. So I had some very thick cardstock, cardboard. The great thing about that is it is paper, it's pulp, so there's not much of a chance for it to leach out anything that's potentially dangerous, especially since, again, I'm working in my home with my family in the other rooms. And I know a lot of people talk about it, but just because you close the door doesn't mean that that stuff doesn't dissipate. And in a very short period of time, we could smell the smoke coming from the machine. Now, I know that this machine has 2 separate filters, but because of the gap between the filter and the machine, it was as if the filters weren't in place at all. In fact, I have used for many years an Emblazer 2 with a standalone extractor with the same type of filters, and I never smell anything coming from that. Wasn't the case here with the iCube, and that was really disappointing. I know when Sculpt Fun sent me this laser, they did say that it was still a pre-production model, and if I had any advice or any suggestions, they were open to listening. And I think that having some sort of permanent seal around the piece that fits in as a hood to protect people, as well as keeping all the smoke that's being created by the laser in the unit and coming out of the filter, would go a long way to making this laser a lot more workable in the environment that it's sold for, which is an office, which is on a normal desk, which is around the house, which is an awesome idea, and I stand totally behind that. So if Sculpt Fun wants to develop that idea a little bit further, get that housing sealed against the laser itself, awesome. I'd love to be able to go and try that out again and see the difference. You could tape up the machine like I did every single time, but that's a little bit of a hassle. And if you have never had that experience before, you may think that that's the level that filtration that you need. And while you could smell the material being processed in the laser, my bigger concern was the laser leaking out of the housing itself, the laser light that was striking the walls. And as I said, you could see that in the video that I'd shot. So again, if you're a beginner, I don't know if this is the perfect machine for you to start with. It is small, it's very convenient. You can use it, I guess, in an office or in your house, as long as you take some precautions to make sure that the filters are working properly and are actually, filtering out any sort of particulate that's being atomized by the laser. But at least for my first setup, that wasn't really happening. Now, I think this is a pretty good laser in the sense of what the laser can actually do. If you remove that cover, if you're going to use it in an open air space, which it's designed to do, it's a great little laser that you can take pretty much anywhere you want. And again, that's a great benefit for what this laser can provide. But again, if this is your first laser, if you're a beginner, you don't want to invest too much in filtration, or you don't want to set up a permanent workspace, and you're looking for this laser to be the answer so that you can work safely in an office or home environment, I think there's a few things that you need to do, and we've discussed that here. All in all, I'm actually looking forward to delving a little bit deeper into the iCube. I really like the idea of having it in my office and being able to process jobs with the iCube. In fact, I was hoping that that would be a little bit of my go-to laser when I'm doing some of these videos now that I have a new office and a workshop that I need to put together. But I think it needs a little bit more work. If you're a beginner and this is your first experience to lasering, I am a little hesitant recommending that, unless you're actually working with someone who has a laser that can walk you through some of the risks, some of the dangers, and some of the processes needed when it comes to lasering. If you are an old hand and you just need a small laser that you can pull out and you are cool with everything, you might have you might have an extractor that you can add onto this, or you might have a workshop that is dedicated to laser work, great. This machine is a very cool way of being able to add another small laser into your arsenal. And the fact that you can pull that plate out the bottom kind of reminds me a little bit of the laser pecker, and the idea of, a machine that you can put onto a surface and then just kind of engrave whatever you want onto that surface. So in that sense, it has a lot of flexibility. Again, just to be clear, given the fact that the iCube is really supposed to be a one-stop answer for using a laser at home with filtration, with a safety shield, I think that I think they need a little bit more work, just a little bit more work. It's almost there. I want to thank SculptFun for sending me the iCube to test out. This has been a little bit of an uphill learning situation because this was a relatively new machine. And when I first got it, there was very little documentation out there. In the time of putting this video together and going back to the website, I have found a few video tutorials that open up the functionality of the iCube. And you know what? Again, this may answer what you are looking for in your workflow. So if you're interested, go and check the link below so you can get your own iCube and develop your laser journey with a brand new tool. All right, now before I go, if you've been this far, I'm gonna ask you a big favor. I've been checking out some of the analytics on YouTube, and one of the things that really surprised me is that according to the stats that I have been checking out, a lot of people come and visit the channel Laser Livestream, but not a lot of people subscribe. In fact, more than 78% of people come and see these tutorials, but they don't actually hit that subscribe button. So if you're coming here just to learn about the iCube, or maybe some of the other reviews of lasers that I've done, or maybe you've learned something from Lightburn with a bunch of tutorials that we have on this channel, do me a big favor and hit that subscribe button. And let's see if we can actually get a lot more people coming back and learning a little bit from the journey that I've had here with lasers on YouTube for a very long time. Anyway, I'm gonna see you next time with the next video from Laser Livestream. Until then, go and check out some of these videos that are coming up right now and go make something amazing with your laser and stay safe.